Today we are going to read chapters 5 and 6 of our book, Marco Polo Exploration. We are looking for the main idea in supporting details. So as we read, we want to identify the supporting details for pages 12 and 13 that support our main idea. Merchants like Marco Polo use many different forms to travel. Check out the ride. At Marco Polo's time, travel was slow, especially over land. Not everyone could afford horses, or even long journeys were made on foot. It was usually far quicker to travel by sea. Did you know? Sea travel in the 1200s could be dangerous. Sailors faced storms, lack of supplies, and attacks from pirates who stole their cargoes. Camel caravan. Let's form a convoy. Safety in numbers. To cross deserts or empty land, merchants often formed caravans. They gathered in a town before setting off with camels and horses that carried their goods. At night, they set up camps. There was enough of them to help guard one another from bandits. By golly, it's a galley. Ships used warfare or trade. Historians are not sure what type of ship the Polos used to sail home to Italy from Asia. Some believe they sailed in a large, fast ship called a galley. Galleys were long and narrow and usually powered by oars, although they also had sails. During the Middle Ages, galleys were armed with weapons and used as warships. They were also used by merchants to carry goods to trade to other countries. What a load of junk! Cutting edge Chinese technology. Junks are better than European ships? When they sailed on behalf of Kublai Khan, the Polos used Chinese ships called junks. They varied in size, but some of them were larger than European ships of that period. They often had raised sections at the front and the back to store cargo. There were covered living quarters for the crew, who sometimes lived on board permanently. Junks were powered by sails made of bamboo. The Mongols benefited from the Chinese shipbuilding technology. They used junks to launch invasions of both Japan and the island of Java. Remember from a previous story, we've learned that the word quarters also means a place where people live. Cargo. A carrack was built with maximum storage space so that a ship could carry as much cargo as possible. This made a voyage more profitable. Travel update. Going native. When the Polos crossed the Indian Ocean, they hired local pilots. These expert seamen knew how to use the monsoon winds to their advantage. The winds changed regularly, so knowing where to find them and which direction they were blowing in could make for a much shorter voyage. Think about how they were all traveling. They used these boats and they also used the wind to help guide them along and guide them back home. Remember, our job is to identify the supporting details that support our main idea that many merchants like Marco Polo use various sources of travel. Identify those 3 sources of travel listed on these 2 pages. Now let's take a minute and turn to page 14 and 15. Solved with science. All travelers relied on science to find their way. They used astronomy and maps to navigate or find their way. When the Polos reached China, they discovered that Asia had its own form of science. On these pages, we are also identifying the supporting details that support the main idea that travelers used many sources to determine where they were located in the sea. Done. Science in Marco Polo's time was not about theories or ideas. It was about coming up with actual solutions to problems, such as how to find your way. Dead reckoning. Cloudy day? No worries. Easy as falling off a log. Sailors figured out the position of their ship by measuring how far it had sailed from a known point. They used ropes tied with knots to measure their speed. The rope was tied to a log and dropped into the water. The sailors measured how much rope had been pulled into the water over a certain time. That told them how fast they were sailing, measured by the number of knots. Where are we? It's all in the stars. The Polos navigated by using a device called an astrolabe. The astrolabe measured how high the sun or stars appeared above the horizon. By comparing this to the ship's course or path, sailors were able to figure out where they were. Judging a ship's position based on the sun or stars is called celestial navigation. Bold claims. Are you sure? Experts doubt claims. At the time, one key branch of science was military science. Polo wrote that he thought that he taught Kubla how to build mangonets, which were like huge catapults. He said the Mongols used the weapons to capture the city, but modern experts say that the city fell 2 years before the Polos even arrived. Asian science. Wonders of medicine. Curing the pain with pins. The Polos were fascinated by Asian medicine. For thousands of years, the Chinese had been using herbs to cure illness. They also used acupuncture. Doctors put tiny pins in the skin to help cure people of diseases. As you finish reading this, there's actually a link on your document that describes what is acupuncture. Take a look at that link. Did you know explorers used to drop a piece of lead to tie a piece of rope overboard to measure the depth of the sea? The quadrant, figuring out north or south. Sailors could figure out how far north or south a ship was using a quadrant. One arm of the quadrant pointed at the horizon and the other at the sun. The greater the angle between the arms, the further the ship was from the equator. Remember, our job today is to identify the supporting details that support our main idea. Quote directly from the text using that text evidence. Thank you and have a great day.